Good day, everybody, and thank you for participating in ABG's Investor Day. My name is Benjamin Silverstone. I am an equity analyst here at ABG. I now have the pleasure of presenting the next interesting company, GomSpace, which will be represented by CEO Niels Busch. Niels, thank you very much for being here today, and the word is all yours.
Thank you, Benjamin, and thank you for listening to us. Yes, my name is Niels Busch, and I'm the CEO of GomSpace, and I would like to present our investor presentation with some new information or rephrasing some information about our strategy. Please take the next slide. Yes, the highlights of our company is that we are a space pioneer in the radio-based areas of nano and microsatellites. We've been growing 30% annually on average since 2015. And we are mastering the full process from manufacturing to turnkey solutions to our customers. And we are positioned to take advantage of a very, very big future market. Next slide, please. The team is, our chairman is Jens Måle, who's been running Therma, the biggest defense company in Denmark for years, and Troels Dalsgaard, who's been here since the IPO, and myself, who've been here actually been with the company all the way through, and the CEO since start of 14. Next slide, please. The GomSpace at a glance is such that we were founded in 2007, and we are in more than 50 countries. We are a leader when it comes to radio-based solutions. We have the full product portfolio, which is very interesting, giving an interesting revenue, and we have a full capacity to assemble the satellites here in Aalborg. And since the IPO in 16, we have invested around $80 million in technology in the company. Next slide, please. We are in the satellite area that is the second growth market for nanosatellites. The mini satellites is driven by OneWeb and SpaceX at the moment, but the nano, and we are also starting to term it microsatellites, is the second largest growth area in the business. And you can see on this slide who is our partners and competitors in those areas. Next slide, please. We aim to become an integrated service provider in the future. Today, we regard ourselves as the champion when it comes to technology and technology level in the nanosatellites in Europe. And you can see the market's sizes and shares on this. I'm a little bit confused because I cannot see the whole slide here, but I don't know if you can change that so I get the full view of it. There it is, yes. And you can see that we regard ourselves as a technology leader with an EBIT margin which is rather low at about 55%, and the total addressable market about 1 billion in that area. We aim to move ourselves upwards to have a larger product content in our deliveries and delivering full constellations. By doing that, we expect to be able to raise our earnings up to 15%, but also total addressable market up to 4 billion euros in total. Beyond that, we are also working how we can start to provide services to our customers. And again, by providing services, we will be able to increase our earnings capacity, but also the total addressable market will change dramatically. Our aim is to continue to be a European champion on all those levels into the future. Next slide, please. We are already pushing the boundaries. Some notable things, not very big at the moment, but still very notable, is that we are doing blockchain payments tests with JP Morgan. We are sending satellites into deep space to measure the content of asteroids for future deep space mining. Next slide, please. But today we are a technology. We have a technology focus. Technology focus can drive revenue, but it is not very good at driving earnings. And the reason is that today we have about 30% of product content in our deliveries and 70% engineering content. It's very hard to make very good money with a high engineering content, so that we intend to change. You can see that we have been able to drive the growth and also bringing the earnings back in place or towards being at the right place. But it's still a task ahead of us. But before I explain about that, let me show you where we are financially at the moment. Next slide, please. The order intake have been growing very good. We had by the turn of the year an order backlog at more than 500 million Swedish krona. And so in that sense, we have things that our customers really like and really want. But to drive the revenue, we need to have a very high amount of new employees. And you can see we can do that. Right now we're close to 200 employees in the company. Next slide, please. And you can also see the revenue is going up, and it will go up. We would like to have it to go up quicker, but it is a complicated task to have enough people coming into the company. You can also see the operating profit is improving and going in the right direction, but nevertheless, and next slide, please. We need to take the next step for the company to make sure that we improve the earnings of the company. And what we will do is to focus more on having the standard products in a modular way, so that we can put, that's the picture on the left, so that we can put standard platforms together to address many possible applications in a structured way. And on that route, our goal is to reach 60% standard product content in our deliveries and only 40% engineering. It is still projects, and we still have to be able to do different things for our customers. But by improving that, we expect to be able to increase our earnings to 15% instead of the around 5% that we can expect at the moment right now. Please move to the next slide. And but tomorrow we will go even further. And now you can see up in the right corner that we go to the second step. We are already now aiming at the constellation phase. We have the work with Indra and Startical, the Spanish consortium, where we are making satellites at the moment to test for air traffic management. And the goal is to make more than 200 satellites for their constellations between 2024 and 2027, as the plan is now. There's also a big European project, the New Symphony project, where the European Union is going to invest in constellation here in Europe as a counter to everything that's going on in the US. So that is moving forward, and that's where we will build our capabilities along with these projects to move into the constellation phase. Next slide, please. And it is now we have to do it. We have all of us heard about the megatrends in digitalization, connected mobility, Internet of Things, and so forth. That's been driving a lot of activities for quite some years now. But now the space environment are also starting to take big part of that. The decreased launch cost, increased capacity for launches, what's called decreased satellite production cost, and smaller satellites as we do it, together with many new companies coming into the market, more than 100 companies going into the market, coming up with new services. That equals to a lot of new business opportunities. In 2020, the total satellite market was expected to be 447 or 450 billion US dollars. In 2030, it's expected to be more than $1 trillion US dollars. And if we look at the content of that, next slide, please. The first part first, I'm sorry about that. We have a 4 billion market opportunity until 2030. Totally, it is expected that 54,000 satellites is going to be sent up. 13,500 of those is nano and micro satellites. that equals to about $4 billion US dollars. And that is what we are going to aim for in the manufacturing of satellites over the next period. Next slide, please. If we look at beyond that, and we look at the content of the big market, the 450 million today and the more than a trillion in 2030, only about 10% of that is hardware. 90% of that big market growth is also services. And that means that we will have to look into how we can enter in our company into helping our customers in more ways than just making the satellites. And we'll be looking in those areas. You can see to the right, the maritime, ocean, what's it called, monitoring and air traffic management and Internet of Things and so forth. We will not start to become a data provider, but we will probably be looking in directions as a satellite infrastructure provider for our customers in the future. But that is up for definition at the moment. But it's very important for us at this point in time to point out that this is the direction that we are going with the company. And as you saw before, and I think we can see it on the next slide as well, please. You can see going through these steps, we will be able to enter into a higher earnings capacity, but also to a much larger total addressable market. But the first step is to move ourselves out from being a technology leader to also becoming a constellation leader and a company that can put together a constellation of various sizes from combinations of standard products. That is the first step that we are going to take, and then define our service level services more into the future. So next slide, please. With these words, I have now told you where we were from at the end of last year, and given you some information about our future plans and where we want to go with the company. We are in a phase now where we're looking, we define ourselves as being out of the you could say the turnaround, having very much stabilized the company, and I'm now positioned to take part of the big growth that is out in the market. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Niels, for this presentation. Going into the Q&A session, I think if we could just really quickly brush up on the supply chain issues that are obviously impacting the industry at large, and just give an indication of where GomSpace is currently. And then let's go into the more interesting parts of the Q&A session after.
Yeah.
So could you give us a brief update on where the current supply chain is situation looks like at GomSpace?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear you well enough.
No worries.
Yes, we are. It's basically status quo as it was, as it has been. We have to have some longer delivery times. We are looking more into the backlog of components that we had, qualifying components that we had on stock, that we had to make sure that they were of the right character and things like that. So we've been working with that. But basically, we are on the same level and is by and large able to do what we expect to do and what we have expected to do so far.
Thank you very much, Niels. During your presentation, we saw on slide 16 that you are now, in the phase of technology leader, and you are then aspiring to go into constellation manufacturing and really win that segment by 2024. Could you give us just an indication of what makes you confident that the GomSpace is at the position now where they are able to sort of progress in that direction?
Yes, we are working. Well, it's a combination of things here, because we are working on the in-orbit demonstration projects for our customers, some very notable customers in that respect. And the whole aim is to move those into making the constellations. It's the first part of that step is to be, when we do these in-orbit demonstrations, we need to make sure that we have more standard products in them, because we will have again and again do test flights for customers that need to test before they send up constellation. We need to do that in a more efficient and less expensive way, so there's less engineering hours of that. Then there's the phase of the smaller constellations, the 50, 25, 50, or 75. They will probably be very much in the same production manner, just more efficient, or with the same component, just more efficient in the manufacturing part of that. And for that, we have joined forces with some very notable consultants in those areas. We are working with Porsche Consulting, the car manufacturer, who's very much efficient and have very much knowledge in how to make tact production so that you can make many variants. And that kind of knowledge we are gaining that from their support in that phase to build that up. The next step from the small constellation is the larger constellation, and in that respect, it's going to be interesting to see how we're going to put that together. It's very likely that kind of very high volume or higher volume production for a Spanish customer also will have to take part in Spain. But that all these things is what we are preparing ourselves for with that with the support from Porsche.
Thank you very much, Niels. Touching on the potential Spanish order from Indra, you do mention now that you hope to have a 200 plus satellite order, to be delivered between 2024 and 2027. But are there any updates on where this development is and how far Indra is, and sort of a timeline to what we should be looking at for GomSpace in terms of when you would be able to tell the market if you have the order or not?
No, we don't know anything about that yet. Right now, we are working on the IOD-1. It's called the first test flights. After that, it'll be the second test flights. And once the first is up, I think we can start talking about when we can aim for constellations, and they have to release things before we will be able to release about that. But the space business, we are very busy now, but it's also it's because there's a lot of work to do, but it's also a little bit longer time constant that we have in this kind of business.
Thank you, Niels. Next up, you were speaking about how the market is going to transition into being very much driven by the service aspect and not the hardware aspect. As you do mention and clarify, GomSpace is not going to be a data provider, but could you provide some details on which sort of feedback you get from your customers in terms of what data you would be able to bring to them to add value?
It's what we are able to do and what we are preparing ourselves to do at the moment is to manage the constellations. We have this site in Luxembourg where we are building the software to manage many satellites in space at a very low cost, and that is a key point in starting to make some sort of infrastructure services for our customers. So we will not be interfering into the customer's data. The data is the customers themselves. But we can possibly do something in helping getting the data down. We can certainly do something to service the constellation, so it's always working the way that it's intended. You could also imagine some other future things that we can do for the customers to make sure that their platform in space, the place in space for the instrument, is ran the best way possible. So that's the level that we are investigating at the moment.
Thank you, Niels. Looking at your slide in terms of market growth potential and the potential total addressable market going forward, we do see quite some interesting numbers, especially for obviously your focus areas being the nano and micro segments. Given your current market share today in the nano segment, how are you guys thinking about the ability to keep or even expand your market share going forward?
Well, that's the big question, and that's what we are focusing for. We have a respectable market share at the moment. I believe the number is around 13%, and we are everything what we are doing about our future plans will be to keep and possibly expand that market share into the future. I don't have any more details about how we want to do that at this point in time.
That is perfectly fair, Niels. Thank you so much. Looking into the future, you guys are coming with a new strategy at the mid of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. And you are also, we recently saw that you hired a new senior position from Airbus as well. So just in terms of the overall team at GomSpace right now, how do you see it being? Are there any need for more hires, or are you at the current level where you would need to be to sort of execute on the targets that's going to come?
No, I expect that there will be more hires on various levels in the company. We have already said that we have started this presence in France, and we will also. I expect that we will also start hiring engineers in France at some point over the next months.
Thank you. And what about on a more high level scale, Niels? Would there be any other managerial positions being filled or needed to be filled?
Not at the moment. No plans at the moment. No.
Thank you very much. And then speaking of France and your international expansion, could you just please give us an update on where you currently are and what might be some interesting locations for GomSpace in the future?
Yes, we are obviously here in Denmark and in Sweden. We are in Sweden in two ways. Our holding or the company that's listed on the stock exchanges in Sweden, but we also have the Swedish subsidiary where we're doing the propulsion part of it, and also do have engineers that participate in projects across the company. Then we're in Luxembourg, which is Sweden is about 15 person. In Luxembourg is between 25 and 30. Moving into new facilities over the next couple of months. Then we have an office in Washington, sales office, one salesperson who's doing well, by the way, very well, by the way. And then we are now starting up in France, in Toulouse, in the middle of the space environment in France. And I expect that there will be some. It will be necessary or an advantage for us to do something. Something is maybe a wrong word to put, but we will have to be in Spain as well to make sure that we are positioned for the constellation when that comes up. But it's also likely that we will expand in that way into more European countries, because the basis for being in the space business is to be able to invest in technology. And a lot of those investments in technology is coming from the European Space Agency. And to be able to capture that in different countries, we have to be there and work in those countries. So we are going to be, you could say, pan-European company as such, being able to work together. And we have a tradition for that, because many of the space projects are always very international, many different partners in different countries. So it in a way it's only natural for us to be there as well. And there's still some other interesting companies in Europe, countries in Europe that is interesting, because not so many are doing so much on nanosatellites, and that still represents an opportunity for us.
Thank you, Niels. I think that is a really interesting point here at the end as well. We do have 1 minute, Niels, and could I just, because there's a lot of people here who might be new to the case, could I just please have you to elaborate really quickly on how you see your current backlog order? I mean, it is very strong from my perspective. It's been growing quite rapidly. And now you're also entering new markets and having more access to ESA. Just a quick sort of ending on how that is looking for GomSpace.
Yeah, we have plenty of work to do at the moment in the company. We have the ESA, or sorry, the what's it called, the Indra order on the nanosatellite, the IOD nanosatellites, which is about 15 million euros that we are working on, have worked for nearly a year now. And then there's a new Scout project, which is an ESA project for 3 nanosatellites, 6U nanosatellites, to make measurements in the upper stratosphere on the content of the air to be able to predict global warming. Then we have the Juventas project, which is a deep space project, which is also a very, very technology driving, capability driving project, not only with technology, but also quality wise for making quality procedures in our company, which is also very important going forward. And then we have another project which I can mention. I can mention quite a few, which is with the Colombian government, which is building up space capabilities, and they have a very, very interesting use case where they are looking at a very big country for especially opal mining, illegal opal mining, which is a big problem in Colombia. There's a space project with the Norwegian defense, what's called R&D organization for an Arctic project. We have really many projects going on in many different directions at the moment.
Thank you very much, Niels. Due to the time, we'll have to conclude the presentation here. But again, thank you very much for participating here today, and thank you to everybody who listened in. Hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening.